We are back for another one of our vlogs, and this week we are talking about informed birth choices and birth stories.
Yeah.
And Chrissy and I have actually had very similar births, haven't we? Except for my first was not like yours. My first was nuts. It was crazy. Your first birth was beautiful.
It was
Charlotte.
beautiful. It was just long.
How long was that?
My first contraction actually was at 4 a.m. and she wasn't born until 11 that night. So it was a long,
Oh my
long
gosh.
day. Yeah.
That is so funny that you consider that long.
Oh, is that not long?
For a first birth, I feel like that's not too bad. Whereas my first birth was, mine was so long. Mine was 2 full days without sleep.
Okay,
Like,
that's long.
I didn't sleep the first night, didn't sleep the second night, and he didn't come until 7 p.m. that following day.
Poor thing.
Which
But what
was
I
nuts.
find amazing is that there's one thing that we have to do, but it can happen in a combination of millions of ways.
That's
and
right.
No one birth is the same.
Yeah, it's so true. And then, like, even with Poa, I had this expectation of how it was going to go because my second birth went a certain way. And I think what I've come to realize now is that you just have to liberate yourself from any kind of expectation and accept whatever your birth story is, because it is so individual. And, you know, I don't know if this happened to you, but when I was pregnant with my first, so many women that I met wanted to give me all the scary stories.
Right, of course. Everyone loves telling a bad
It's
news
so
story.
painful. You're gonna have the drugs, or mine ended up in an emergency cesarean. You know, watch out, this could happen to you. You know, and I had watched The Business of Being Born, which is a documentary about birth in America, and one of the takeaways I got from that was, all right, if I haven't gotten into active labour within 7 hours and I'm in a hospital, they're going to give me Pitocin and I'm going to be induced. And I had these fearful thoughts running through my mind. I actually ended up working with a woman to do a fear clearing surrounding my birth. And it was really helpful, and I just decided that whatever way my baby wanted to come into the world was going to be the way that he came in.
And 100%, you know, there is that, you know, there's that element that we can't control, but I do believe that preparing is everything.
Yeah.
Being informed.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. What did you do with your births?
Well, when I first got pregnant, you know, unlike you knew how you wanted a birth since you were a child. I had no idea.
I was 5.
and I grew up in Brazil for the first part of my life, and you know, Brazil is very much part of our culture, and everyone there has cesareans. So in my mind, I thought, oh, of course I'll have a cesarean. That's just what we do. So I got pregnant, and so I started. Of course, you start doing a little bit more research into things and meeting different people, hearing everyone's stories. And I just am so thankful for this book that I came across. It's called Effective Birth Preparation by Maggie Howell. And it just transformed my outlook on birthing. It made me feel so empowered, and that I can just have a natural birth, and that it is the norm. And, you know, of course I was open to anything. It's going to end up the way it'll end up, but it really got me on this journey of this beautiful natural birthing, which I'm just so grateful for, because they are the experiences that I had in the end.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this topic is about informed birth. And you know, as Chrissy said, I have been obsessed with the idea of having babies since as long as I can remember. And one of my ways of preparation was getting some books. Mum Life was getting books by Ina May Gaskin, and I know many of you have probably read her books, but she is the midwife guru. She also has a fantastic documentary about her work at the birth sanctuary, at the farm, sorry. in Tennessee in America, and it is just phenomenal, and she empowers women, and she gives techniques on how to push and how to breathe, and how when you're loose with your lips, you're loose in your bottom and baby comes down more. She talks a lot about affirmations and really focusing on the idea of like a flower opening up and blooming, and just takes the fear out of birth, and ensures that it's not something that we need to be scared about. And so her books really resonated with me. Did you read any of the Ina May?
I did. They were excellent.
I loved one of my favorites actually, and I read it in 2011 quite long before I was thinking about getting pregnant. I was in Big Sur, and I was staying in this big beautiful house. They called it the Butterfly House, and it was this amazing kind of wooden home in this canyon, and I found her book, and it was called Spiritual Midwifery, and it was a collection of different birth stories from women from like the 70s through to the 90s, and just reading these stories, these births sounded really magical and strong, and they were so different. They were quite eclectic as well, but the mind state of the woman was really positive, and she was welcoming what they call waves. They don't label it contractions, and these women were saying, oh, the rushes and the waves were coming over me, and you know, with each wave, with each sensation, I knew I was getting closer to meeting my baby. And I just loved that, and I really try to utilize that in all of my births, and I think I was probably most successful with that with Poet. It's funny, I had quite a number of people at my birth this time round, only a month ago, and my husband said that I looked like I was ecstatic. But I really specifically remembered seeing the images of these women, and they're smiling through these waves, and I just kept focusing on the idea that each one brought me closer to holding her. And I envisioned her. I remember I kept everything really high. I had a light voice, and with each wave, even when it got to the most intense part of it, I just kept picturing her face, and I knew it was bringing me closer to meeting her.
That's beautiful that you could do that. Do you think like your acting skills helped you with that? Because in the end, like I was just swearing and yelling at the lady on my hypnobirthing tape, like, I can't get to my happy place. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a typical experience though, and so much of it is in your mind when you have got a low risk pregnancy, and labour progresses in a relatively standard way. I do think that a lot of it is in your frame of mind, because I remember in Forest birth, I went from, you know, a 40-hour birth with Bodhi, and then I had Forest in 3 hours, but I had done so much preparation in between those two births and lots of research. And I remember as soon as I got fearful, there was this one particular contraction that I had in the shower with Forest, and it was about 2 hours in, and I didn't know this, but I was probably about 7 centimeters dilated. I remember feeling terrified in it, like, oh my gosh, and I started getting my head, and I thought, another one's coming like this, how am I going to handle it? And being my second birth, I still thought I probably had at least 12 hours to go, because I didn't know it would be that quick. I didn't know how far along I was. And just getting in my head like that and feeling anxious about the next one made them more painful.
Interesting.
Yeah, which was funny. And as soon as I was able to calm myself and be present with each one, it was just so much easier. I could get through them a lot smoother. So that was my experience. And I think you're right about finding those books and finding those little gems that are helpful to you.
Yes.
There's
and
a
each
great...
of them resonates with someone different. Like it
That's
is
right.
like just keep trying until there's one that resonates with you.
And you love it. And by the way, I have other friends who are like, give me the drugs. I want the drugs,
Yes.
you know, and we have modern medicine. It's amazing. If you don't want to have to feel those sensations,
Yes.
you get the epidural.
Yes, that's right.
I have friends who have had the most beautiful, positive births. They've had hospital births. They have really enjoyed their experience. They get their epidural right when they want to get it. And the thing is, if you're planning on getting an epidural, make sure you get it early enough.
Yes, I've heard that sometimes it's too late.
Sometimes it's too late to get it. And then I also have another friend, our friend Claire, has had a cesarean, and she's pregnant again. She's going to be having another cesarean, and she had such an amazing experience with that. And you know, I'd like to say that if you have had a birth that has felt traumatic for you, there are so many ways to process that experience and to try and work on healing that experience and coming to peace with how that was. I certainly did not expect to have a home birth transfer with my first baby and then have a retained placenta that had to be ripped out. And there were so many things that just didn't go to plan in my first birth. But I now look at that experience as something that was such a blessing, because it really set me up for how parenting is. You can't have these expectations of how it's going to be. You've got to be moment to moment. And that's how I had to just navigate that birth experience. So it was a great lesson for me. Yeah,
but it is, I mean, on planning, I think it still is important to plan, because I feel like even though mine didn't go exactly to plan, they were all a bit longer than what I had hoped for.
My 2-hour birth, that doesn't hurt at all.
It was important because I'm big into manifesting, and that was one really interesting thing that I did. I manifested the day that each of my 3 children were born.
It's a powerful manifesto, this one.
And I feel like, you know, we talk a lot about the mind, and so for example with Charlotte, I knew everything was set up, her room, her cot, everything was sorted except the car seat wasn't in the car. And then I called my dad over one night. I'm like, right, I'm ready to have this baby, because James doesn't know how to fit car seats. I had no idea at this time, so I had to call my dad to come over and do it.
Your dad does all those things around the house.
I'm like, if there's a light bulb out, he's like, call the police. What do we do about a light bulb? Anyway, it was a Monday night. My dad fit the car seat in, and of course, Tuesday, 4 a.m. was the first contraction, and then she came. And what was really cool about Rafaela's birth is that our midwife, we had shared the same midwife, she loves to go on holiday right when we're due.
Yes, she does.
So she was away on up until 2 days before my due date, and I had been early with all other children, so you know, I was a bit nervous about that. But the morning she was back, she sent me a message saying, right, feel free to go into labour. And so I did. I started contractions that day, and so I let her know, but then she quickly sent a message back and said, oh, please hold off, because one of my other patients have gone into labour, I can't be with you. And my contractions stopped.
Oh my gosh.
Next morning, the same thing, you know, she said, okay, feel free to have the baby now, I'm back home. So contractions were on again. And then they came on and off until she was ready. And then on the day she was, you know, it was my due date. She was ready to go, and I was ready to go, and then she came so beautifully and peacefully. So that, as well as the preparation of, I love acupuncture. We've spoken about different types
we
of
both
holistic
went to the
therapies.
same woman, didn't we?
Lady. She was really great. But that really helps things like get the baby in the right position and soften the lining of the womb. Helped with my back pain.
Great.
That sort of thing. So I'm a big believer in acupuncture in pregnancy.
Yeah, and I loved going to a chiropractor as well, which really helps. That they do something called the Webster technique. So it just brings baby into the optimal birthing position, which is fantastic. And so I did a combination of the chiropractor and the acupuncture, and I had back labour with my first baby. He was posterior, and then my second 2 babies, I had done a lot more research, and I knew that the 1-2 punch of the acupuncture and the chiropractor meant that I could get the babies in the optimal position. And then I didn't have any back labour, and hallelujah, because the back labour was so much harder with Bodhi.
I can't imagine.
We're almost out of time, guys. guys. I could talk about this
Yes.
forever.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we are. Okay. Another
All right.
time.
Another time. Yeah, there'll be another video. All right. Mwah. We love you guys. Thank you.